welcome to the Vigilate Dialogues. I'm your host, Shaina Smith, welcoming you to the national conversation we have been having on Virgin Islands history and culture. And as promised last time, we were going to bring in a special guest who is a Virgin Islander to her marrow, as described by her son. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome my guest this evening, Ms. Rosie Smith. And back with us, we have Aaron the Jedi Parillon. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. All right, guys, we are set up for a very exciting conversation this evening, I believe, and looking forward to hearing the stories. I think one of the things that we do very well as Virgin Islanders is we can tell a good story. And I think it's through that storytelling that we're able to, also that's one of the ways to pass on the traditions. Because just last week in class, for those who might, this is your first time trying to figure out why is Shaina talking about history and culture, I'm taking the Virgin Islands history class at the community college. And, you know, I was so excited about the things that we were learning and understanding the importance of having that knowledge, you know, across the community, that I decided to start basically a special series on it here on the dialogue. So just last week class, Wednesday, we had a guest lecturer, which was Dr. Angel Smith. So he came in to talk about slave conditions, and it was very interesting how he did it, where he had a bunch of statistics that he created graphs from. And through that, he talked about the different things that took place on the plantation. So let's say, for example, one of the stories, so to speak, that he told was when we look at the table for criminal offenses, you know, we noticed that the males would get in trouble for vandalism, theft, running away, those types of things. And females will get in trouble for disrespecting the master or something with mouthing off somebody, right? So, you know, and those were the types of things that kind of like jumped out at us. And it's a way for us, and to me, where through him telling us the story in such a way, helped us to remember it. So I think that's one of the important things in terms of how we pass on our cultural traditions, the importance of storytelling, because I grew up with my parents telling me stories all the time about, you know, long ago. So Ms. Rosie is going to tell us about long ago as we talk about the importance of it and, you know, understanding that history is the historical facts of what has happened in a country. But on my way tonight, I was also thinking about, we also have to talk about our history as a people. And the fact that it didn't just start here, but that we have African ancestors. So the story goes across the Atlantic, and we also need to learn that story and understanding who we are as a people, and able to move forward now as far as, you know, now that you know your past, you're able to forge ahead into the future.
Right.
So Ms. Rosie, I had to take our survey that we're doing for the group. And, you know, you say you're a Virgin Islander by birth, and you rate your knowledge of local history pretty high. Actually, you get a 4, that's a high, so it's 1 out of 5. So you're right up there. What for you in terms of history? And just give a little bit of your background for those who may not know you. They know the face, I'm sure, but they may not know you personally.
Thank you. My name is Rosie Smith. I'm the last recorded birth on Peter Island. And I grew up on Peter Island up until I was 5.5 years old. So my brother and my sisters used to school over in Duff Bottom with my father, mother. And I was lucky enough to get to stay with my mother and father on Peter Island. So they were both fishermen and fisherwoman. But on my father and mother side, she was a herder. They had these animals, a lot of cattle and stuff, so I get piece of both world. We used to, when I go on my grandmother's side by my father, we used to churn the milk, set it up at night, and churn butter and stuff. And then on my mother's side, we get to fish. So it was always exciting. I was living in paradise. Yeah.
Again, and that's the type of, I think, even for me, I didn't have that, but my childhood, I'm like, I never traded for anything. Because it's so amazing when you get to have the experiences that we've had. And I like to churn butter. That'd be nice.
Because I'm from Smallville, I get to learn to knit the seam. I get to learn to ball the twine or thread the needle with the twine. And my grandmother, she had took a hairpin and bend the nip and taught me how to crochet and do hairpin lace. So all these were essential to me growing up, that now that I get big, I could look back and say, you know what, I get my life get enriched by
having those experiences.
Yeah.
So when we look at our culture or our traditions, and this is something that Aaron and I talked about last week or the last time we were here, you know, how are we passing them on? Because a lot of people have the sentiment that we're losing it, we more so the traditions. We're not practicing the traditions. You wouldn't find a teenager out sewing a seam no.
No.
You know, and we're not saying that necessarily that is something they have to do, because this was actually the way of life back then. But how are we to expose them to this type of life and help them to understand, you know, who we are as a people, where we came from?
My father used to take my children back to Peter Island when he go to fish. But I never get a chance to show them anything, because that life for me had finished when we moved across here. We moved in the limelight, where fishing had become something like every summer or every other weekend we would go across, we get to fish. So all that little excitement had died, because we came where we had to pull grass, prop potato, and then after a while it was the electricity that came on, because when I was born, it was in the, I must say, in the closing out era of the things that used to do during slavery time, like clean the lantern in the morning and do certain things. So sweep the yard with the moran, broom or wash it. When you have your fishy pot, you take the moran bush, you know, and you scrub the fishy pot from them to smelling fishy. But now you have your dry liquid and stuff like that. Nobody going back.
We go in the supermarket and we're mesmerized by the amount of dishwashing liquid options. Like, imagine.
Because even during Christmas time, it was fun for us to make our own decorations. But now you find nobody do that anymore. So what I did was, I bought a little something. I said, let me show you what it was like, how we make a little fly catcher.
Oh, wow.
It get a little crush.
Okay.
There,
yeah. We get an idea. So we hang this up in the roof of the house.
Hang it up in the roof. But you know, when Christmas come, the flies will sit on it and look down and say, you wait there when Rosalind move. Why going down there on your piece of the ham? It's like,
so you never used to really catch them, but it was
well, yes, because they always set on this at the night. You could always spray to get the swatter in, swat them, because the flies always hang around on top of the fly catchers. So this was a part of a past that the ladies, Miss Lyra Washington and her son Amos used to come out selling the fly catchers. So every Christmas you will look forward to prettying up your house with stuff. So when Christmas come, I would come and I'll decorate for you the old-fashioned way.
Okay, sounds good. We're going to fix up the set.
Of course.
Definitely. So, Aaron, since the show, what's the feedback you've been getting?
It's been some crazy conversations, which in most persons have been, who have verbally spoken to, they have been in agreement with what I've been saying, and they too think that, you know, we tend to move away from what is necessary to teach our kids in the school system, especially you know, with the Columbus.
Yeah, you were in the news.
Yeah, I was in the news with the Columbus. I mean, the headline caught. I think the headline created such a conversation. You know, even my kids in the classroom was asking me about it. And I was speaking to a cousin of mine, Shaina Smith, the other day, and he was, you know, he was hype about it. He was like, Columbus, a whole thief. Claudia put a blast, but I mean, but you know, many parts in the community have known about Columbus. You know, they know about the truth about Columbus, but nobody has really spoken about it. So I think when I spoke about it, you know, it raised the antness, and it also, it also, I think what it also did was brought back that storytelling, you know, because the younger generation like myself now will be able to go and ask grandparents, no, you know, what about this Christopher Columbus? And then, you know, they open a kind of one about conversations now. So,
Yeah.
you know, we begin to close that gap now, you know, about history and what's not. So, yeah, it was good.
Yeah. And I think that is so important because, you know, that's kind of what's been happening to me since doing it. And, you know, people talk about, well, who's qualified to teach history or to talk about our culture? And I explained to one person, you know, everybody has a perspective on it. So my father, you know, made 70 this year. So he has 70 years what? But, you know, the Virgin Islands goes way beyond that. So it is important for us to not just look at it through one generational lens, but to go as far back as you can. Because it's just amazing for me where, again, learning about African culture, I realized how much of it is rooted in what we have been doing, you know, from slavery days come forward, because Africans came with their traditions and they practiced it. And it got mixed in with the Amerindian and mixed in with the European. And this is why we are who we are today, you know. But I think we're getting lost someplace in the shuffle, Miss Rosie. I don't know what's happening. We talk a lot about having a multinational society, 120 countries, they say, is recorded. And there seems to be even more division as a result. And we're moving away from our social values, and which is our obviously the bedrock of the society.
Right.
So when persons, you know, start to intermarry nationalities and, you know, you have a cultural mix start to go on, to me we're starting to pull back even more as a society and trying to define and say, well, you know, this person is indigenous, this one ain't indigenous. And I had to tell somebody the other day, I said, at some point everybody came in on a boat, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And where they came from, sometimes we'd be very surprised. Like for class, we learned that the sugar industry really took off when Anguillan planters came here. And this is where, no, migration from Angola didn't just start, no. This is from way back in that would have been like the 1700s. So again, the slaves took the master's name. So that's why we have the names in both countries, you know. And these are the types of things where, again, how are you going to tell somebody they're not from here? And I use this as an example. The British planters that were here, they refer to them in letters as Tertullians. But we are very stickler now about who we define as a Virgin Islander and who's not a Virgin Islander. And this big debate, I think, is a sensitive issue, but it's an important conversation that we need to have. And because it ties into things like our immigration policy or social policies in school, you know, the whole nine. What's your thoughts on all the discussion that has been going on around that?
I do a little research myself and go back into the early history because I find out not all the slaves that came here, I mean, some of them were African descent, because say like Sikobe Tresfall, I think Elizabeth Tresfall, her slave came here from, she brought them here from Montserrat. And some of them were from Creole. I don't know which country you were calling the Creole, whether they were from Guadeloupe or...
No, actually Creole was used to refer to Africans now that were born in the Caribbean.
Oh, okay.
Because I read that, I was like, well, who's Creole though? But that's when it is they're saying they're mixed, because now sometimes you would have the interracial children where the masters were sleeping with the female slaves and those types of things. So that's what that was referring to.
Oh.
Because then again, this is how the division started. So you're not African anymore because you're born here.
Right.
In the Caribbean. So they refer to you now as a different, like a subgroup, so to speak.
Because what was strange also to know, people from St. John brought their children over to the Kingston church to be christened. Because I went back even in St. John to read some of the early history there from the early 17th century, 1730, and you find it involved a lot of, there were free slaves black slaves from here that owned their own boats that go down there, that what the African slaves used to do, build battle, and when they hear the flapping of the boat, they said they had this color, they would go out, or some of them would hang on to the rope that from the boat, and they would throw themselves here or would go into St. Thomas, or if they need a letter sent to somebody, they would send it in. So some of our history, even in the U.S. Virgin Island too, and along with England, along with Anguilla and those other places. So we all around, even Guyana. So you would find even I must say, if people that were born here in Trinidad, Guyana, Grenada, those people from Georgia's north side that went to Grenada, and those that went to St. Vincent.
Yeah. We learned about that too.
I'm trying to trace.
I was surprised at that too, because they were talking about the Josiah's Bay plantation. I can't remember the name of the planter, but he owned also one in Seacoast Bay. And when after the rebellion, I think it was, they closed down and they sent everybody to Trinidad.
George Nips.
I think so.
George Nips.
Yeah. So
These
it's
people from-
interesting. So it's like, you know, they were sent over there as slaves. They would have considered themselves, I'm sure, Tertullians. But after emancipation, they're not necessarily going to just uproot themselves and come back. So it's like you have those, you know, the tree spread throughout the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So when you have people come back and say, you know, they have roots here and they have a sense of belonging here, you know, how do we knit our community back together? That's kind of like my question now. How we go about doing that? Because this born here from here debate has gotten really deep for me now. Where this morning in the office, actually, we started talking about where there's a debate of if you're born here, you should have a passport, which is along the lines of what Donald Trump is actually against in the U.S. And the British, that's not the law. The law isn't that you don't get birthright citizenship. So fine, then you get claimed, so you're from here. But then if you're born here where your parents aren't from here, then you're not from here. So you get disqualified. But then on an immigration control level, I still need a document to be able to travel, right? So that poses a quandary that a lot of people are experiencing, and I think this is where a lot of the static that's out there is going on. And, you know, we invited our callers calling. The number is 499-7815 to add your voice to the conversation tonight, because I know a lot of people, again, just like with the Columbus topic, that they have a lot to say concerning it. But for me, it's not just focusing on the problem, but how do we build more social cohesion and really see, you know, have more of an open mind, I think, because in America, you would say a Chinese American, which refers to somebody who is a U.S. citizen, but has Chinese heritage, right? Which would mean that their parents were probably from China, or whether it's their parents or their grandparents. But it's something that they embrace as part of their identity. So why would we never talk about a Caucasian Virgin Islander?
Very much. I consider myself a Dominican Virgin Islander. You know, I embrace my Dominican heritage to the fullest. You know, have flags, Dominican flags and all those stuff. And I have my Virgin Islands flag, my U.S. Virgin Islands flag. I have my British Virgin Islands flag, you know what I'm saying? I think I would fall right in between that loop.
Yeah.
There's
because to me, this is another society in here, yeah.
You know,
we can't tell you ain't from here.
I'm from here. I'm saying I consider myself being from here because where else do I pay my taxes? You know, where else do I call home? I call BVI my home. Regardless of where I was born, I'm actually from here. I'm from here. I've never said, you know, people ask me where you're born. I was born St. Croix, but where are you from? I'm from here. My mom raised me here. My mom is from
This is my
here.
life experience right here.
This is where I'm from. This is where my dialect, I mean, my whole entire dialect is BVI. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So I'm from here, but I embrace the fact that I have different bloodlines in me, you know, Dominican heritage. And I think it comes out in me. It comes out in me some way, especially like, I think into music, you know, sometimes you hear WCK and stuff. I get this kind of feel inside of me.
Relate to it.
Yeah, I get this kind of feel in me where I start to mix. I could mix between the crowds, the different Caribbean crowds, because like just being able to embrace the fact that, okay, yes, you know, from the Virgin Islands, but have different heritage inside of me. So you just hey, what the heck, just embrace everything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
You
saying?
don't have to pick. That's
No,
what you're
I
saying.
don't have to pick. But
Have you ever felt pressure to have to pick or to choose?
when I was growing up, you know, you know, them guys know my father was Dominican, so it was you know,
There's a stigma.
you had
there.
you didn't want to play too much WCK music or be around.
Because
the
then you
fact
try to act like a Dominican.
that- yeah, them guys gonna say, you know, yeah, gas oh yeah, little island boy, or the case maybe. But the older I become, you know, and I just started to just, you know, hang around these Dominican guys in Glen and a couple of the guys from Seacoast Bay. And you know, I started to drink certain things. They did the maribola, and you know, when I went to Dominica when I was younger, you know, I actually seen the lifestyle there, the roast breadfruit and the roast corn and the saltfish and all those
And you
different
saw the similarities.
you know, I started actually like, you know,
Ain't nothing wrong with it, sir.
ain't nothing wrong with it. I got this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
And we can appreciate that.
yeah.
What's your thoughts, sir?
I find sometimes when you're born to a title that is not here, to get a job sometimes it make it a little difficult for you because some people don't recognize it, think that you're not from
Who
here.
them for?
Who the fuck?
That's the
I
first
remember one
question.
time one of my daughter applied for a job, and when they hear the title, they say, "They ain't want our title." And they say, "Well, who you for?" And they said, "Oh, I didn't know." And I said, "Sometimes it doesn't matter as long as you're born. As long as you're born to live, you're born to survive, you're born to live life. Migration was always a part of us."
Now, mommy, I mean to cut you off, right? But God bless. I say God bless. My mother is well known around here because certain places I go, you know, Parillon. Which Parillon you from? You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, you should know my mom. My mom, Rosie Smith.
Yeah, you
Like,
yeah,
oh,
you
use
go with
Rosie,
that.
boy. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So I'll be like, okay, I got a sense of validation right there.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I'm
yeah. You
saying?
got passed.
Yeah, I got passed.
You got passed.
You know?
You got passed.
I even had thought sometime, you know, the last name, especially it was kind of difficult in certain areas with the last name. I thought about changing my last name to my mom's, but I say, man, look, this is me. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna
Yeah.
know about me.
Okay, I think we have a call. Caller, welcome to the Vigilate Dialogues. Go ahead.
Shaina,
Yes, sir. Good evening.
you were talking just now about persons born in the territory and not getting a PVI passport, for the lack of a better word.
Can you speak up a little bit, sir? We can't hear you clearly.
Now, what I was saying, you made a reference just now to persons being born in the territory, right, and unable to get a passport. You with me?
Yes, sir. Following.
No, I was made to understand that that's a United Kingdom law.
Yes.
And the BVI, being part of United Kingdom, has to follow suit. And I don't know how true the scenario is, but I was given, what should I call it without being offensive? The reason why that law came into being is that many years ago, a number of persons from the Caribbean, right, Barbados, Jamaica, and what have you, migrated to the United Kingdom. All right? And then when they started to born their children in the United Kingdom, they refused to give them any documentation because back in those days it was alleged that there are no such thing as black English people. So that's a United Kingdom law, and it behooves our leaders to try to make sure that persons that were born in the territory, in respect to where their parents are from, I strongly believe that person should be entitled to a passport. Because, as you know, the U.S. has a different policy. Don't mind where your parents are from. If you're born on any jurisdiction belonging to the U.S., automatically you're a United States citizen.
Yeah.
So the people of the territory and our leaders need to try to correct these kind of stupid policies, because this is intellectual time, and we should really be condoning those 1960 mentality and stuff like that. So that's just my input to your show.
All right. Thank you, caller. Any response?
Yeah, I was just thinking about. I look at that from a different perspective. I think reason why something like that is in play is a sense of security. You know.
That's what I was explaining to my colleagues at work.
Yeah, it's a sense of
there's
security.
immigration control that's built into that, to a certain thing. But go ahead, and then I'll chime in.
It's just a sense of security where you know, you don't want to. I'm just saying. I don't know the reasons behind this from my perspective. Having too many different, like, you see, like our Americans, you have the Chinese Americans and what's not. You know, everybody just issued that. As long as you're born in a U.S. jurisdiction, you're granted a U.S. passport. You know, I think around here we have a smaller country, and it's like price controlling. You know what I'm saying? You have to limit certain things. So I guess that'd be my perspective of why they would do something like that.
Okay. What do you think?
In my young years growing up, I know when somebody who's not from here get pregnant, wherever they're working, or they used to send them back home to born the baby. And then after they born the baby, they would come back. And it's a hurting feeling as a mother. You consider that a child can't get a passport, even if he gets sick, that it can't go away different, because sometimes the mother can't even put it on their passport because it didn't born in their country.
Yeah, no, and I realize now that's another set of complication that's frustrating, adding to the frustration of a lot of people.
So the question is, what do you do?
Yeah, because you can't travel without a passport. You know,
Maybe an alien, but
you have to have some type of travel document.
yeah.
Because I would explain to them there's Constitution, there's Immigration Code, there's Passport Act, I think it is. And all these are mechanisms, as it was, to control, you know, population growth, who has what rights and privileges within a country.
Right.
Because then, you know, to work here, if you're not a citizen, you have to get a work permit. And you have to go to immigration and get permission to be here for a certain period of time, right? So you have all these different things that are in place, but in some instances, it's hindering to, you know, both individuals as well as businesses, because they complain about some of these processes that we have. But I think for us now, the question as a society is really about, you know, where do we go from here? Because we've already to a place where we have a lot of international children. You know, one parent is not from the BVI, they may be born here, but, you know, one or both parents are not from here. So do we consider them part of our society, or are they on the fringes, so to speak? You know, because there's one particular nationality I always like to use as an example, that they come in with their culture and they have made the BVI their home probably over the last 3 generations. This is all they know. Yes, they continue with their ways of culture, but the BVI is home. So sometimes persons have prejudice against them. But again, when you check it, they have a BVI passport. So, you know, it's like we're attacking ourselves that kind of way. We're turning in on ourselves, and I can only see, you know, destruction come out of that. It's not going to be anything positive. So we really have to sit down and look at ourselves as far as, you know, socially, cohesion, you know, how together are we? And how do we build out the BVI now going forward? Because I could imagine that was a big thing where if you're not from here as a female and you get pregnant, you have to go back to your birth country to have the baby, because, you know, we're saying, no, you can't have that baby here in a very subtle way. But, you know, it's when you start talking about human rights now, this is where a lot of things start to come out on the table, you know. So it's very key. But we're up already on our half-hour mark, so we're going to take a commercial break right here and get a word from our sponsors and be right back. Good evening and welcome back to the Vigilante Dialogues. I am your host, Shaina Smith. With me this evening, I have Miss Rosie Smith and the Jedi, who's back with us. And we're here talking about VI history and culture. More specifically, we've actually been touching on social cohesion, talking about the importance of, you know, the society being able to exist in a multicultural, multinational situation, because, you know, some might take the position of Donald Trump and say, send everybody back home, but there'll be a lot of repercussions about it. Because what example was I was using at work today is that we were trying to draw a line that's straight. It can't happen. Because if I start, well, okay, the parents came from here, but the child from here, and then this child might not have been from here, but then the parents here, and then this one wasn't born here, but then the parents from here.
Then you go by
By the time we
grandparents.
finish, we cut it up so small, there's nothing left.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that is impacting us negatively, and we really need to talk about the prejudices that are in our society. I mean, it's something that is not going to go away until we deal with it. And we have a particular minister that speaks about it, refers to it, and I'm sure he's speaking from his personal experience, similar to you, Jenny, as far as the stigma that he may have experienced. Because only now I'm starting to experience it as far as saying, well, I wasn't born here, so I shouldn't have run for political office. So if the Constitution says that I'm a Virgin Islander and I have that right to do that, you know, but the society now, or persons in the society are rejecting that concept, you know, we have a misalignment, so to speak. So it's like saying we need to look at our passport laws or immigration constitution, because things like who is a belonger, how that process comes about, should a belonger be treated as a Virgin Islander, which based on the books right now, they have all rights and privileges of. They own land, work, live free, and they can vote. So, you know, there's a lot of ticklish things in there. I know a lot of people, they like to have these conversations in private. But I think it's time to put it out there and have that public conversation about it and come to some conclusions. So that's kind of where I was in the office today, because I was like, guys, we can't continue to pass a lot and say, this is how I define if you're from here. You're from here if your parents were born here and you were born here, then fine. But it can't be that if you say born here, and then if I'm not born here, but my parents are from here, then I might get a pass. You know, that kind of way? Because it's impacting our children psychologically. I remember speaking to a teacher in high school about that. You know, and maybe you've seen similar experience as far as how we're treating our children and continuing the prejudices onto that. That's one thing we don't want to pass on. We could pass on everything else, but we don't want to pass on those types of behaviors. What are your thoughts?
In Artiscale, we do something called, when we have Culture Day, we have a cultural explosion where we invite, we have different countries, we have different styles, different countries. You go out, you sample stuff from different countries. Now, most of the kids are born here. The parents are from different countries. You know, you have Dominica, you have the Latin, the Grenadians, and what's not. And I think it's, and then you have BVI in between the mix. You know, we go alphabetically, and you know, I think it's such a good feeling to know that, you know, the kids are able to embrace different cultures. You know,
They're being exposed.
yeah, being exposed and still embrace it, because I look at it like, okay, I wasn't born here. I'm an American. I have an American passport. You know what I'm saying? If I leave this country and I say, okay, I'm going to America to live, you know, I flash my passport, boop, I'm considered an American straight across. I'm not looked at any other way unless I say I was raised in Tatola. You know? So you're a VA boy. You know, straight up, you know what I'm saying? I'm a VA boy. They don't watch me and say, okay, you're an American. They say, you're a VA boy. So if they're going to tell me I'm a VA boy, what makes me feel less of myself of being a VA person? You know what I'm saying? I'm from the BVI. This is where I'm from. You know, and there's a lot of kids, you know, whose parents aren't from it.
Okay, I think we have a caller.
Caller.
Caller, go ahead. Welcome to the Dialogues.
Good night. Yes, good night.
Good night.
I'm calling concerning the issues that we're having with children born here not having passports. Not only is it a problem, the next thing is, I mean, if you're already not given a passport, when a child travels and they come back, it's even a bigger hassle, because then you're supposed to have time for that child. And if you don't have time, it's like they hold whatever document you have and you're supposed to get time. And sometimes they may even refuse, you entry. I mean, we're crying out loud. You're not given a passport. But if a child is born here, I don't see why a child is supposed to get time to be, in a place that they're born. Already you're not given a passport is a big thing because sometimes we parents have to be here. Maybe we're here for 15, 20 years already. And when we are forced to go back to our homeland to get a passport for that child, right? And then we come back with that passport and they keep it if we don't have time for the child. It is crazy. And
They
it's really
keep
a
the
pain for us.
passport. You're saying they keep the passport from
If you
the other
don't
country?
have time for the child at immigration, yes, they do. They
Really?
keep if it's wherever passport you have, if it's a Kititian passport or St. Vincent passport, if you don't have time for the child when you come in, they hold the passport and you're supposed to go out to find time or whatever it is and then come back to them.
Okay. Okay, they will hold the passport until you go and apply for the time. So if the child, I know under the British law, once you're under 18, you're supposed to register. When you register the child, do they give you some type of documentation that allows them to live here?
Yes, we're supposed to get, if it's a bond or something, so you have to pay whatever amount of money, some of them 500, 1,000, whatever it is. You have to get a bond at time and stuff for the child, even if the child is born here.
Oh, that's through immigration, not passport office.
That's immigration.
Okay. No, what I'm referring to, I think it's passport office or the deputy governor's office is who manage that process. I think more information needs to be out there on that. I have to do some research and come back on that. Okay. But that's good information to know because I know, I heard people talk about the frustrations that they have to go through. But I didn't realize that was also part of it.
Okay. Yes, it is.
All right. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so you were saying?
Even last, just listening to what they show. They saying,
But see, and that's for me where, again, as a citizen or somebody who's resident here, right? Because somebody made a comment today about, again, the rights that people have maybe as an expat versus somebody that is from here. And processes are going to be processes, whether you're from here or not. There should be one set clear criteria as far as, this is how you get your child enrolled in school. This is how you get access care at a hospital and those type of public areas. But it's always very important to educate your public on certain things so that when people come into the country, they know exactly what the process is, what's expected of you. So even before you get to the point of saying, I found out I'm pregnant, do I want to birth a baby here or do I want to go home? It's a personal choice now.
Right.
It wouldn't be something that's forced upon you. But at least you're educated to know you make an informed decision. This is what will happen if you do. This is what will happen if you don't. And need for better understanding. Because, I get very disappointed when I hear people have to complain about certain things that, to me, it's a matter of, it's within our power to change it. Yes, the laws are influenced by the British Act. And the one that influences ours is the British Overseas Territories Citizens Law. Because after I heard Trump say that thing, I went to look it up. I was like, what exactly is all of this? So all the OTs, they have a status of belanger, versus the citizens of the land and different things. But again, locally, every territory decides how they're going to manage their processes. And I think we need to get on top of our game in that regard to do what it is we want to do. So we already starting to wind up. Rosie, what do you think we should be doing as far as passing on our cultural traditions? I like the idea of having National Culture Day, or I should say International Day. Churches do it, schools do it, to expose our young people to different cultures. But how do we further ingrain in them their own culture and teach them more about their own history so that they have a strong identity or a stronger identity of themselves as Virgin Islanders?
I think they could start having, as obviously the picnics that they used to have.
So more community events.
Because I remember when Sikau Bay used to, every Whit Monday, they used to go to Norman Island, like the whole of Sikau Bay used to get together, get in those boats and go to Norman Island. And why those from Peter Island come down and they have just one fun, the rum, fun, and food.
Can't done.
Music. And you find you get to know everybody, you get intertwined. And they should take, like, ask the fisherman them to go to the school, and they could start doing some classes, teaching how to knit the seine and do the, and most of all is our food. We need to get them to know what was flour pap or cornmeal pap or kanki pap. And most of all, it was our traditional
Yeah, a lot of goodies in
dish.
the bag.
Our tradition.
Came
Well, I
semi
make this
prepared.
one especially for you, Shaina.
Really?
Because I think back in our time coming up, our parents, my parents were fishermen, so there was always food on the table, but there were those who were less fortunate. And if it's one thing the mother would cook was one dumpling.
Yes, sir.
Now, you call this a cattle tongue dumpling.
Yeah.
But if you have all stick, you know, anytime it's sticky. So when you bite, you make sure you bite. And this dumpling will last you the whole day. Piece, you cut a piece for breakfast, you have piece for lunch, and piece for dinner. Or you fry
Fry some
the
fish.
piece, and you just have a cup of tea, and that's it. And you're good. This is lunch,
Wow.
breakfast, and dinner.
That's too much flour.
It looked like too much flour, but
That's flour, man. I mean, I love
That's
dumplings.
sustainable.
it used to settle your stomach.
It sustain you. That hold it for the day.
Oh, yes.
That hold it for the day. And that's so key. I'm going to interject this right there as you said it, because a lot of times I hear people talk about all foods and saying all foods are creating a lot of chronic diseases and stuff, right? And again, sitting down and learning about the foundational stuff as far as the foods. The ground provision came over with the Africans for the most part. We picked up some from the Amerindians. Things like cassava, that was there indeed.
Yeah,
That's
cassava,
where we
yeah.
picked that up from. And,
Potatoes.
you know, the Europeans brought in the rice and some other things. And we used to grow corn. And those are the things now that the doctor's telling you you need to eat. Because these are the healthier things than eating a lot of white flour and white potatoes and all of these things which are imported food, rather than eating what we knew. I pointed out to somebody, you know, if we're going to criticize fish and fungi because of the mayonnaise, truth be told, mayonnaise came over in modern times.
Oh, yeah.
You know, our great-grandmother wasn't cooking no mayonnaise sauce with fish. The fish was done in the water, they season it to the hilt, and you got your ground provisions,
They used to do it
and you go.
They used to do it in the buttermilk. When they finish churning the butter, they would use the milk after to
And use that for the
for
fish
the
sauce.
gravy. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so we were people that we were resourceful. We used what we had around us.
Right.
And I think because of changes like that and then adding more salt, I mean, the difference between sea salt now, that's a big trend now. You know, that you don't buy regular salt anymore. Sea salt is said to be healthier because it's not as concentrated now when it's processed. So when we were here picking salt from Salt Island and using that to season our food, we were a lot healthier.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You know, it's when we start eating processed foods and having food brought in, you know, when my grandfather killed a sheep, we eating that and saying, there. Now if I go to the store and I am buying mutton, I don't know when this sheep was slaughtered. I don't know what they fed it. They put hormones, the hormones in the meat, the hormones in the food they're giving them. You know, so it's a lot of unhealthy stuff. And to me, that is where a lot of now these diseases and sicknesses came in, you know. Because when we were eating off the land and out of the sea, we were a lot healthier. People used to live to 90s and 100s
Of course.
because of the food that they were eating and accustomed of eating.
And it was natural food, you know. Everything came out of farms.
Yeah, but the water, they used to boil the water. They used to have the tar drum, and they used to boil the water. Or you could drink the water from the
The
drum.
rainwater just so.
Yeah, and I think too, our parents used to make sure we get a good washout. Every month you get your castor oil and stuff to clean intestines and stuff. No, hardly any parents do that to their kids. Everybody just yamming and this chicken and chips and chicken and chips and hamburger that you know, all those fried stuff that clog up the intestine, and so you need time to flush it out and get
I
clean.
could testify to that. Every summer, after, you know, you run around eating candy and all the other junk, that you had to come mommy used to give us orange juice and aloes
Yeah.
to clean you out.
Right.
And then sometimes you could tell if we say the blood too sweet, you gotta get a bush bat. And she go on the road, she pick the bush, and all of us are there, so on the back foot, in the bathing pan, and she washing your dog. And they've done it to the next generation. As far as my nieces and my nephews, my brothers, they still do it. Because again, we too quick to go to the doctor, man.
Yeah, very much.
We're too quick to go to the doctor. And these are things as far as cultural traditions that really would improve our quality of life, even in a developed society. To hold on to our bush remedies and know, you know, when we got sick, my mother may call my great-grandmother in St. Thomas, which was her grandmother, and she would tell her what to mix up for the 7 bush medicine.
Right.
You know, and you always do bush in odd numbers. I learned that too.
Yeah.
So if you're doing bush tea, odd numbers.
Yeah.
1, 3, 4, 7. And so we had a 7 bush medicine, and she boiled that thing in black, you know. But they used to put in sugar in it so you could drink it. And you tip-top shape. I barely remember going to a doctor growing up, unless it was something serious.
Right.
Because the minute she sees some symptom of something, she don't start working on it.
I know you had a man from Sicko Bay, Mr. Asthma Nibs. He used to boil coal, mericin, my father used to call it. And it was a syrup made from some kind of bush, but when you drink that, wherever the coal is, it's
Gone.
gone. And I think, or else your mother would give some Father John or some Scotch emotion, and you find that take care of that.
I
But
went actually for that for my uncle that day in the pharmacy, right? The lady watched me funny, you know. Because some of those old British products, again, that were really, you know, they have more natural ingredient contents than a lot of the Robitussin in the toilet and all.
Right.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you take it and it still isn't doing anything for you, you know. And I'd be recommending, I like Buckley's. I was so upset. They don't have Buckley's anymore. I would, anytime I hear anybody cough, I say, you need some Buckley's medicine.
Buckley
you know.
used to go down solid.
They say, it tastes terrible. I say, it tastes terrible, but it works.
Yeah,
yeah,
Buckley.
because like people with asthmatic people, they used to give them ipecac syrup. This is something that when it goes down, you know, it's an infection that lives within the lungs that crawls. So sometimes if it's damp or something like that, and what it does, it just pull it out and it bring it straight out.
Bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it will come out. Yeah,
But
it used
yeah.
to clean out, but now nobody don't because they used to sell it in the old apothecary in St. Thomas.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. So that was still on the
Yeah.
shelf.
My mother used to buy it from there.
Okay. Yeah, we have those, and that's to me one of the important reasons why we need to hold on to our cultural traditions.
much.
Those things that have served us well, kept us healthy, that we were always an active people, going to sea. I grew up going to sea with my grandmother. She was probably about in her 60s then, maybe. And she always used to have to go for her sea soap
I see, so.
every once in a while, because they understood, without knowing the medicinal part of it, that the salt in the sea helped to revive their body. You know, and doing those things out of, you know, all of those things were like, we would say, a healthier lifestyle we had without even knowing. And those are the things I think we always have to encourage, especially in the younger generation. Because the choice is going to be theirs as to whether they do it or not, but let it not be that they haven't been exposed and told.
Right.
You
Because,
know.
you know, we used to, instead of drinking all these sodas and stuff, we used to get our limeade, or sometimes, if you do lime, brown sugar in water, tamarind dab, soursop
Passion
dab.
fruit.
Yeah, you
everything.
make your little drink and you have, now everything is soda, something sweet, even though the Marby and so, but you use sugar to your limit that, you know
Yeah, to
what
taste.
to take. Yeah.
It's a taste.
So I think we need to go back a little bit to introduce children to what is it, brown sugar limeade, for them to see what it's like.
And you know, as we talking that, those are the types of things where I would like to see a rebirth of festival around culture and all these cultural traditions, where food fair is about the real deal. I want to see a cow tongue dumpling. You know what I'm saying? And even if that is just a booth that has a display of, you know, this is what bush bat looks like, this is what Moran bush. We are talking about Moran bush. A lot of people have no idea what is Moran bush. Or
Black
old
walnut.
wife skin. I remember Granny talking. Actually, I see my grandmother used to use that. She said about old wife skin, she used to use that to scrub the pots.
Scrub
And
the
seeing
floor?
cooking on the coal pot and baking bread on the coal pot. Those are the things I want us to see us doing around festival, because there needs to be a continuous thing, like you're saying, with the picnics.
Yeah.
Let's use our holidays more constructively.
Right.
You know, Territory Day, the whole place need to be full of BVI flags. I was watching National Day in China the other day, and it's like every house had a flag on it. You know, they're celebrating their country and celebrating themselves as a people. And Territory Day is finally starting to come up, because I was shocked when I realized the meaning behind Territory Day. Because that's something for us to have been celebrating from since 1950, not just in recent times. So, you know, again, in terms of who we are in our identity, we need to start pinning it down into sorting things. And festival is a good place to start.
Yeah.
You know, the heritage sites.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to see a lot of things being restored. There's a new group, I should say it's new, they've been working behind the scenes apparently. I think it's Association to Preserve BI Heritage. And they're the ones that's working on the project up at Kingston and restoring the church. And there's some other things that they're working on, and we'll have them come in. But, you know, government needs to make a bold move as far as, especially those things that are on private property, buy them back, so that we can preserve these things, and you have a story around, because that's what your history is, you know. It's the stories that are adding up over time to come to say, well, this is how we became who we are. You know, and it's amazing for me. You know, one of the things I always went into a history class wanting to learn was how come places are named the way they are named. And I learned that when I was looking at the map. There was a map that was done showing all the plantations and who the owners were. So I was like, oh, that's why Cox City is Cox. That's why Arundel, why Shannon, why Chalwell. This is where Purcell come from. Purcell actually was a lieutenant governor that was here. Free Bottom, you know, all these different areas. Passé, yes, that was also an estate, a sugar plantation. So the areas took on the names of these persons, and that's where the names, I don't know where Caribbean come from, that wasn't on the map. So I still, we had to do some more research on that. But, you know, all of those are things that we should be able to access, say, a high school student, and they're able to tell you. And we're able to do that through starting them off at primary school with basic things, you know, bringing them up gradually, so that when they do get to college level, I mean, it's more in-depth research as far as really going into the thing. But I should be able to stop a high school child, and they should supposed to be able to tell me why certain places are named the way they're named. What is the significance of Territory Day? Know that the Nottingham slaves were freed from 1776 and not 1834. So there were freed slave communities, or I should say freed blacks, that were living in the Virgin Islands during slavery, because everybody believed that because you were black, you were a slave, but that is not the case.
We had free slave here from, I went as far back as 1728.
Yeah. So, and those are the things that are just amazing facts for me. The more I'm learning, the more I'm taking in, and it's like, you know, we have to push this out. We have to get this into the next generation and the generation after that, so that we can, you know, start to stabilize ourselves as it were.
It skipped many.
And able to have the sensitive conversations without everybody taking offense.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can't have a conversation without somebody taking offense, because you know, they may have been affected by it, or they're not affected by it, but support, you know, what is happening.
particular
I mean,
position.
we gotta open our minds, man.
Yeah.
This is an era right now where there's few indigenous Virgin Islanders, right? And it's like you can't dictate like marriages and all those stuff. Like different countries, you know, you have to marry an Indian person, or the case may be. Long, you see a nice young lady here, she's from Jamaica, whatever the case will be. Bab, you get together, you have a kid, bab. You know, it starts from there. You can't force me now to marry a Virgin Islander woman. I mean, we go off of feelings.
Yeah, unless we have an arranged marriage.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We
I
don't
think
have.
we passed those days, right, Miss
We have
Rosie?
those days, we passed that a long time now. So
Yeah.
everybody goes off of feeling, affection. It's not really based upon, you know, heritage or culture anymore. We go off of feelings. You know, we mate based on feelings.
Yeah, and it's it's a personal choice, because if I decide I want to marry a Virgin Islander, that's my choice.
Right.
If I decide I want to go and marry a Chinese,
That's your
that's
choice.
my choice. But where is that the backlash is
Yeah,
the problem.
the backlash is the problem because
Because now it's falling back on the children and even on the husband, no, because he has to exist off of my strength.
Right.
Rather than being embraced in the community for his own contribution. I would hope I will marry a slacker.
I think we have come a long way because my dumplings still stick right there so in the car. Because we used to mate within the family. Most people in the BVI mate within
they stay within
the family. Yeah, I'm part
practicing royalty.
I'm part of the royal family. You know, so and both you and I share the same
gene pool,
heritage, culture, tradition. Our great-great-grandparents came off the cotton plantation. Yours was Cornelia Smith, and mine was Rachel Smith, who have inherited her father Henry Smith, who inherited his father George Smith plantation. And we all are the same people.
Yeah.
I did the research.
That's true. See? That's why we have to know. That's why we have to know.
Yeah,
well, guys, I want to thank you for coming in. This has been such a good conversation. I hope people learned a lot.
Always,
and it also will continue to stimulate conversations, you know, amongst families, you know, on the job and community.
Yeah, that's it right
as
there.
far as, again, as a society, let's decide what is it our social values are, who we are, and, you know, set up that identity and commit to it, as it were. So that we can move the BVI forward in a better direction.
Just speak with the older heads.
Ask the questions. They need to get in there and start asking the questions.
You learn a lot.
As a start.
Yeah.
Awesome. You've been tuned in to the Vigilate Dialogues. I am your host, Shaina Smith, inviting you to join us here on Thursdays at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 6 p.m. Let's continue to change the conversation for a better Virgin Islands. Good evening.